So welcome everybody. This is Hobo Rider back here in New Zealand, and for the last 5 days it's been doing this. It's blowing a gale anywhere from 30 to 49 miles an hour. Right now what I'm doing is holding the bike up a little bit. I mean, it'll stay there, but we're getting gusts that are just ludicrous, and obviously I'm not being able to ride. And this is day 5, so it doesn't look like it's going to let up either. So anyhow, Hobo Rider, hanging out in my camp. I got to get the bike moved here. If it dies off, here we go again. There you go. Woo! This is stupid. So continuing as to what's been going on. For the last 10 to 11, almost 12 days, I've been riding in some of the worst winds that I've ever ridden in. And that's saying something, in particular since I've ridden in South America. But the difference there is the winds come out of one direction. Here in New Zealand, what takes place is, New Zealand being a small, narrow island, if you will, in particular the South Island, the wind predominantly comes out of the west. I guess they call it the Roaring 40s or something along those lines. Comes along, hits that mountain range, dumps most of its moisture then over the top of the mountain range, and then of course you get the same effect you get in any mountain range when that happens. And you get this burbling effect, if you will, that comes out onto these plains. And these are some of the strongest winds I've ever ridden in. In particular, the problem with these winds is they're not consistent out of one direction. They're a pulsing wind. You might be riding along a hedgerow here, and all of a sudden there's an open area, and wham. In another situation here recently, I even got in the middle of what I would call battling winds. And it was basically winds coming this direction, winds coming this direction, and I felt like I was the referee in the middle of a boxing match, and I was the one being taken care of. But anyhow, these winds have gotten to the point where it's been extremely difficult numerous times just to keep the bike upright and on the road. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going, "Oh, you're just a wimp, Jim." Well, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But I have the responsibility to look out for myself, and when I'm riding, I'm number one, all right? So leaving that aside, let's talk just a little bit about what's going to happen because of these winds. And you might be able to see behind me the trees off in the distance, because it's still blowing Mach 40 here again. And it never stops. At least it hasn't stopped in the, what's it now, 12 days that I've been here. So anyhow, I've come to the conclusion, after trying to make 2 attempts to cross passes in the south, and another attempt in the north to try to go north, and just consistently run into the same situation over and over again. And I've just come to the conclusion that it's just not worth it. It's like throwing good money at a bad situation. So with that, I will be bringing this trip to New Zealand. Unfortunately, I will be bringing it to a close next week, and I will be flying back to Southeast Asia. But with that, I'd like to share just a few stories from people that I've met here in New Zealand, and I want to add to this that these are some of the most wonderful people you're probably going to meet anywhere. Same in Scotland, same kind of people, just absolutely wonderful, friendly. They'll go out of their way for you. So with that, let's dive into a really interesting story. And you might wonder why I'm in this shed. Well, the reason I'm in this shed is to protect the bike, because the other day, as I was rounding up my equipment around the tent, the wind came through there, and it was running a steady 35 to 40, and then it came through with this pulse that literally, this is 400 pounds right here on this bike, literally flipped this bike over just like it was swatting a fly. So seeing that kind of stuff gets your attention. If it doesn't get your attention, there's something wrong with your attention. But anyhow, so with that, I'd like to share a couple stories with you that some wonderful people here in New Zealand have shared with me. So what do you say we talk about that here in a minute? Thanks for watching, folks. Well, the wind's howling, that's for sure. Anyhow, as I previously said, I want to share a particular story that was shared with me in a shop the other day. It's a shop that's called a co-op shop. And basically they have many different types of farm supplies or things that you would use on your farm. So me being inquisitive when it comes to tools, I saw these knives, and to me they were some pretty wild looking knives. So I pulled one of these things out, kind of a hook shaped thing, and I asked the lady, I said, so what are these knives used for? And she looked at me, she said, well, those are used predominantly for skinning lambs. And I went, oh, well, okay. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? And she says, yes. One of the things that happens during lambing season is that there are, every once in a while, you get a stillborn, i.e. the lamb is born dead. And then you have maybe another one that a mother or other mothers reject the lamb. So what they do is they skin the stillborn. Now I know that sounds kind of really weird, but nonetheless, they skin the newborn, and then they take that hide and they will pick a mother lamb. Maybe she has one, maybe she doesn't have any. But what they will do is they will rub that hide across her nose. And then after doing that, they will take that hide from the stillborn and they will stretch it almost like a vest over another newborn that is obviously surviving. And then they take some baling twine and I guess you would say almost like a zipper. They zip up the bottom, and then this lamb will now hopefully be accepted by this mother that they took the hide from the stillborn and rubbed that scent on the mother's nose, and now it's on the newborn that is surviving. And that is the way that they try to get a mother that either doesn't have a lamb or has rejected another lamb. However it works out. Anyhow, this is how they go about trying to find a mother for another one that has been born, a lamb that has been born, but doesn't currently have a mother. So they're using the stillborn's hide, if you will, stretched on the new baby lamb that is surviving to be accepted by a mother lamb. Now I know that really sounds strange, but that's a fact. This is one of the things that takes place, in particular during lambing season. So I found that story just incredibly interesting, and I hope you did too, because I thought to myself, and I asked this question, I thought to myself, well, that hide's got to get to smelling pretty bad during about 5-6 days. And then it was explained to me that usually within 2 to 3 days, the mother lamb has definitely accepted this particular newborn. So then what they will do is they'll come in and cut the baling twine or baling string, which is used for everything on a farm, and take that hide off, and then the newborn lamb will have a mother, hopefully have a mother that has accepted it. So that's just one of these little stories that you're never going to hear about unless you have the opportunity to talk to the local people. And I want to point out again, these are some of the most wonderful people I have ever met just about in any country. And this is my 5th year in New Zealand. I came initially in 1969 with Operation Deep Freeze in Antarctica. But aside from that, this is my 2nd year for riding motorcycle in New Zealand. But this is definitely has not worked out this time. The winds, which like weather a lot of places in the world, the winds here are blowing constantly, even to the point where, as one farmer told me, they've never seen winds like this so consistent. It even took out his pivot line, which that's a very expensive item to take out. And as I think I previously stated, it just took my motorcycle, 400 pounds, just slapped it on the ground like it was nothing. So you can imagine what it'll do with you if you happen to be on that motorcycle. Well, I just previously stated that my first time to New Zealand was 1969 with Operation Deep Freeze. So I've been asked if I could elaborate a little bit on what that is. And in 1969, I was chosen as part of a special operation for Antarctica. And our squadron was VXE-6, as well as our primary objective was to support the Antarctic research that was taking place, obviously, in Antarctica. And I was also chosen as one of the 140 members that were going to be wintering over, i.e. we will be on the ice for a year, which some of you don't know. That includes 7.5 months basically of total darkness. So that was that was pretty rough. So what was my job? I was a fuel king at Willie Field during the summer and fuel operations at McMurdo during the winter, or along with a lot of other different operations during the winter. So anyhow, I just wanted to briefly explain my first visit to New Zealand, which was my first introduction to the New Zealand people, which were absolutely fantastic. In addition to that, I arrived on the ice October 11th, 1969, and I left the ice on October 11th, 1970. Back to New Zealand again. So that is just a very, very brief story of what took place in 1969 relative to New Zealand. So for the person out there that asked that question, I hope this addresses it. So with that, we'll try to find some other stories to talk about. Thanks, folks, for following along with Hobo Writer.